Welcome to Stoic Mindset, where ancient philosophy transforms modern lives. Today, I'm going to share with you 12 powerful Stoic lessons that will fundamentally change how you navigate life's challenges. These aren't just philosophical concepts, they're practical tools that have been tested for over 2 millennia by emperors, slaves, warriors, and philosophers. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by life's uncertainties, if you've struggled with anxiety about the future or regret about the past, if you've wondered how some people seem unshakable no matter what life throws at them, this video will give you the blueprint for building an impenetrable mind and an extraordinary life. Make sure to subscribe to Stoic Mindset and hit the notification bell, because by the end of this video, you'll have a complete framework for transforming not just how you think, but how you live. The foundation of inner fortress. Before we dive into the 12 lessons, let me tell you something that might shock you. The most successful, fulfilled, and resilient people throughout history haven't been those with the most advantages, the best circumstances, or even the most talent. They've been those who understood a fundamental truth that the Stoics discovered. Your power doesn't come from controlling the world around you, it comes from mastering the world within you. Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire at its peak, facing plagues, wars, and betrayals. Yet his personal writings, now known as Meditations, reveal a man of profound peace and wisdom. Epictetus was born a slave, physically disabled, yet became one of the most influential philosophers in history. Seneca lost everything multiple times, was exiled, and eventually forced to take his own life, yet his letters on ethics and the good life continue to inspire millions. What did these men know that we don't? They understood that an impenetrable life isn't built on external fortifications. It's built on internal principles. The modern world has convinced us that we need more money, more recognition, more control over external circumstances to be secure and happy. But the Stoics understood that this is a trap. The more you depend on external things for your well-being, the more vulnerable you become. Every external dependency is a potential point of failure. But when you build your life on internal principles, when you develop what the Stoics called an inner citadel, you become truly impenetrable. Not because nothing bad can happen to you, but because nothing that happens to you can destroy your capacity to live well. Lesson 1. The dichotomy of control. The first and most fundamental lesson is what Epictetus called the dichotomy of control. This single concept, properly understood and applied, can eliminate 90% of your anxiety and frustration overnight. Here's the principle. Some things are within our control, and some things are not. Within our control are our judgments, decisions, desires, and actions. Outside our control is literally everything else: our bodies, our reputations, our possessions, and all external events. Now, this might seem simple, even obvious, but here's where it gets powerful. Most of us spend the majority of our mental and emotional energy trying to control things that are fundamentally outside our control. We worry about what others think of us. We stress about economic conditions. We agonize over past mistakes or future uncertainties. Meanwhile, we neglect the one area where we have absolute sovereignty, our own thoughts, choices, and responses. Imagine you're stuck in traffic, late for an important meeting. The typical response is frustration, anger, stress. But applying the dichotomy of control changes everything. The traffic is not in your control. That's simply reality. But your response to the traffic is entirely within your control. You can choose to see it as a disaster, or you can choose to see it as an opportunity to practice patience, to listen to an educational podcast, to mentally prepare for your meeting. The external situation hasn't changed, but your experience of it transforms completely. This isn't about being passive or indifferent. It's about investing your energy where it can actually make a difference. When you stop wasting energy trying to control the uncontrollable, you have more power to influence what you actually can control. You become like water, flowing around obstacles rather than crashing against them, always finding a way forward. Marcus Aurelius faced plagues that killed millions, including his own children. He couldn't control the disease, but he could control his response. He focused on what he could do, providing leadership, maintaining order, setting an example of courage. By accepting what he couldn't control and focusing on what he could, he became one of history's most admired leaders during one of Rome's darkest periods. Lesson 2. Amor fati. Love your fate. The second lesson takes the dichotomy of control to its logical conclusion, not just accepting what you can't control, but actually embracing it. The Stoics called this amor fati, love of fate. This doesn't mean you have to like everything that happens to you. It means recognizing that everything that has happened to you has contributed to who you are, and everything that will happen to you is an opportunity for growth. This is radically different from mere acceptance or resignation. When you truly embrace amor fati, obstacles become opportunities, become setups for comebacks, and every challenge becomes a chance to demonstrate your values and strengthen your character. The Stoics had a phrase for this: the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Consider Thomas Edison, who, when his laboratory burned down, destroying years of work and millions of dollars in equipment, reportedly said, "Thank God all our mistakes were burned up. Now we can start fresh." This is amor fati in action, not just accepting the fire, but seeing it as a clearing of the path for something better. When you develop amor fati, you stop being a victim of circumstances and become a partner with fate. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "How can I use this?" Every experience, pleasant or unpleasant, becomes raw material for your development. Failed relationships teach you about yourself and what you truly value. Professional setbacks reveal new paths you wouldn't have considered. Health challenges force you to develop disciplines that make you stronger in the long run. This doesn't mean you seek out suffering or don't try to improve your circumstances. It means that when life inevitably delivers challenges, you meet them not with resistance but with curiosity and even gratitude. You understand that the universe isn't happening to you. It's happening for you, providing exactly the experiences you need to become who you're capable of becoming. Lesson 3. Memento mori. Remember death. The third lesson is perhaps the most sobering yet liberating of all Stoic practices. Memento mori. Remember that you will die. In our death-phobic culture, this might seem morbid or depressing. But for the Stoics, regular contemplation of mortality wasn't about being gloomy. It was about being alive. When you truly understand that your time is limited, every moment becomes precious, every decision becomes important, and every day becomes an opportunity. Seneca recommended that we tell ourselves each night that we might not wake up, and each morning that we might not make it to evening. Not to create anxiety, but to create appreciation. When you know that this conversation with a loved one might be your last, you're fully present. When you understand that this project might be your final contribution, you give it your best effort. When you recognize that this day might be your last, you don't waste it on trivial pursuits or petty grievances. Steve Jobs famously said that remembering he would die was the most important tool he'd ever encountered for making the big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Memento mori also provides perspective on our problems, that embarrassing mistake that's keeping you up at night. In the face of mortality, it's insignificant. That person who wronged you, that you're holding a grudge against. Life is too short for resentment. That dream you've been putting off because you're afraid of failure, The real failure is reaching the end of your life with regrets about what you didn't try. This practice transforms procrastination into action, fear into courage, and complacency into urgency. When you truly internalize that you're going to die, you stop living as if you have unlimited time. Stop putting off important conversations, meaningful work, and genuine experiences. You stop trading your limited hours for things that don't truly matter to you. Lesson 4. The view from above. The fourth lesson involves a powerful mental exercise that Marcus Aurelius frequently practiced, taking the view from above. This involves imaginatively rising above your immediate circumstances and seeing them from a cosmic perspective. When you zoom out far enough, your problems that seemed overwhelming become manageable, your anxieties that seemed justified become absurd, and your place in the grand scheme becomes clear. Imagine rising above your current situation, above your building, your city, your country, above the earth itself. From space, all human dramas, all our conflicts and concerns become invisible. The border disputes that cause wars, the social hierarchies we stress about, the daily irritations that consume our emotional energy, all disappear. This isn't to say these things don't matter, but to provide perspective on how much they should matter. This cosmic perspective does something profound. It simultaneously humbles and empowers you. It humbles you by showing how small you are in the grand scheme, removing the pressure to be perfect or to have everything figured out. But it also empowers you by showing that if you're this small, then your mistakes, embarrassments, and failures are also small. You're free to take risks, to fail, to try again, because in the cosmic view, it's all part of a much larger story. The view from above also reveals the interconnectedness of all things. From this perspective, you see that you're not separate from the universe, but part of it. Your atoms were forged in stars, your body is made from the earth, your consciousness is part of the same fabric as everyone else's. This understanding dissolves the illusion of separation that causes so much suffering. You realize that helping others is helping yourself, that contributing to the whole contributes to your own well-being. When you regularly practice this perspective shift, daily stresses lose their grip on you. The traffic jam that would normally frustrate you becomes just a temporary clustering of vehicles on a small road on a spinning planet. The workplace conflict that's been consuming your thoughts becomes just one tiny interaction among billions happening at this moment. This doesn't make you indifferent. It makes you wise about where to invest your emotional energy. Lesson 5. Voluntary hardship. The fifth lesson is one that our comfort-obsessed culture desperately needs: the practice of voluntary hardship. The Stoics understood that comfort, while pleasant, makes us soft and vulnerable. When we never experience discomfort by choice, we're devastated when it arrives without choice. But when we regularly practice voluntary hardship, we build resilience, confidence, and freedom. Seneca, despite being one of the richest men in Rome, would regularly spend days living like a pauper, sleeping on the floor, eating simple food, wearing rough clothes. Not as punishment, but as training. He was proving to himself that losing his wealth wouldn't destroy him, that he could be content with very little. This practice removed the fear of loss that paralyzes so many wealthy people and freed him to take risks and make decisions based on principle rather than fear. Modern forms of voluntary hardship might include cold showers, fasting, intense exercise, or deliberately choosing the harder option when easy ones are available. The point isn't suffering for its own sake. It's building your capacity to handle discomfort. It's proving to yourself that you're tougher than you think, that comfort is nice but not necessary, that you can thrive even when conditions aren't ideal. This practice also reveals how little we actually need to be content. When you fast, you discover that hunger isn't an emergency. When you take cold showers, you learn that discomfort is temporary and manageable. When you sleep on the floor, you realize that luxury is optional. Each practice chips away at the dependencies that make you vulnerable and builds the self-reliance that makes you strong. Voluntary hardship also makes you grateful for what you normally take for granted. After sleeping on the floor, your bed feels luxurious. After fasting, simple food tastes incredible. After cold exposure, warmth feels like a blessing. This gratitude isn't theoretical, it's visceral, felt in your bones. You stop taking comfort for granted and start appreciating it as the gift it is. Lesson 6. The Inner Citadel. The sixth lesson involves building what the Stoics called the inner citadel, an impregnable fortress of the mind that no external force can breach. This isn't about becoming cold or disconnected. It's about developing an unshakable core of values, principles, and self-reliance that remains stable regardless of external circumstances. Your inner citadel is built on the recognition that your true self, your capacity to choose, to think, to maintain your values, cannot be touched by external forces without your permission. Others can imprison your body, but not your mind. They can take your possessions, but not your principles. They can attack your reputation, but not your character. This understanding is profoundly liberating because it means that the most important part of you is always safe, always free, always under your control. Building this inner citadel requires daily practice. Every time you choose response over reaction, you strengthen the walls. Every time you maintain your principles, despite pressure to compromise, you fortify the gates. Every time you find peace in chaos, contentment in scarcity, or meaning in suffering, you add another stone to the foundation. This inner citadel becomes your refuge during life's storms. When the world feels chaotic, you can retreat to this space of clarity and calm. When others try to manipulate or control you, you stand firm in this fortress of self-determination. When circumstances strip away external supports, you discover that your true strength was always internal. The inner citadel also changes how you engage with the world. When you know you have an impregnable retreat, you can venture out boldly. You can take risks because failure can't destroy you. You can love deeply because loss can't break you. You can commit fully because disappointment can't define you. The fortress doesn't isolate you. It liberates you to engage with life fully. Lesson 7. Negative visualization. The seventh lesson involves a practice that might seem pessimistic but is actually profoundly practical. Negative visualization, or premeditatio malorum as the Stoics called it. This involves deliberately imagining loss, failure, and worst-case scenarios, not to create anxiety, but to eliminate it. When you've already thought through and accepted the worst that could happen, you're free from the fear of it happening. Every morning, spend a few moments imagining losses, losing your job, your relationship ending, your health declining. Don't dwell on these thoughts or catastrophize, but simply acknowledge them as possibilities and consider how you would respond. What would you do? How would you cope? What would still remain that no one could take from you? This practice does several powerful things. First, it removes the shock factor from negative events. When something bad happens that you've already visualized and accepted, you respond with, "I knew this was possible," rather than, "I can't believe this is happening." This emotional preparation allows you to respond more effectively to actual challenges. Second, negative visualization generates gratitude. When you imagine losing something, then open your eyes and realize you still have it. Appreciation floods in. Your partner is still there, your health is still intact, your home still stands. These things you normally take for granted become sources of active gratitude. Third, this practice reveals what truly matters. When you imagine various losses, you discover that some would devastate you while others would barely affect you. This clarity helps you invest your energy appropriately, protecting and nurturing what truly matters while holding loosely to what doesn't. Lesson 8. The discipline of desire. The eighth lesson addresses one of the primary sources of human suffering: undisciplined desire. The Stoics understood that suffering comes not from not having what we want, but from wanting what we don't have. The discipline of desire isn't about eliminating all wants, but about wanting what you have while working toward what you want. This paradox is crucial to understand. The Stoics weren't advocating for passivity or lack of ambition. Marcus Aurelius ran an empire. Seneca built enormous wealth. Epictetus founded an influential school. They had goals and worked toward them. But they understood the difference between preference and attachment, between working toward something and needing it for happiness. When you master the discipline of desire, you can pursue goals without being enslaved by them. You can want success without needing it for self-worth. You can seek wealth without believing it will make you happy. You can desire health while accepting illness if it comes. This freedom from desperate need actually makes you more likely to achieve your goals because you're operating from abundance rather than scarcity. The discipline of desire also involves examining why you want what you want. Often, our desires aren't really our own. They're programmed by society, media, or comparison to others. When you dig deeper, you might discover that what you thought you wanted isn't aligned with your values at all. The promotion that requires sacrificing family time, the luxury car that impresses people you don't even like, the lifestyle that looks good on social media but feels empty in reality. Lesson 9. The power of perception. The 9th lesson reveals one of the most transformative Stoic insights. It's not events themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about events. Shakespeare, influenced by Stoic philosophy, put it this way: "There is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so." This isn't relativism or denial of reality. It's recognition that our experience of reality is shaped by our perception of it. Two people can experience the exact same event and have completely different responses. One person loses their job and sees catastrophe. Another sees opportunity. One person faces criticism and feels destroyed. Another sees valuable feedback. One person encounters obstacles and gives up. Another sees resistance training. The event is the same, but the perception, and therefore the experience, is completely different. This power of perception is your greatest tool for creating an impenetrable life. When you understand that you're the author of your experience through the stories you tell yourself about what happens, you reclaim enormous power. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become the creator of meaning. This doesn't mean deluding yourself or pretending bad things are good. It means finding the most empowering, useful perception available. When facing illness, you can perceive it as pure suffering, or you can perceive it as an opportunity to develop patience, to appreciate health, to connect with others who are suffering. The illness remains, but your experience of it transforms. Developing this power requires vigilance. You must catch yourself when you're automatically assigning negative meanings to neutral events. That person who didn't text back isn't necessarily ignoring you. They might be busy. That setback isn't necessarily a disaster. It might be redirection towards something better. That criticism isn't necessarily an attack. It might be a gift of perspective. Lesson 10, strategic humility. The 10th lesson involves developing what I call strategic humility. The recognition that you don't know as much as you think you do, and that this ignorance is actually a strength. The Stoics, influenced by Socrates, understood that wisdom begins with admitting what you don't know. This isn't false modesty or self-deprecation. It's an accurate assessment of the limits of human knowledge and the complexity of reality. When you embrace strategic humility, several powerful shifts occur. First, you become genuinely curious rather than defensively certain. You ask questions instead of making assertions. You listen to understand rather than to refute. This makes you not only more likable, but more intelligent, as you're constantly learning rather than protecting existing beliefs. Second, strategic humility protects you from the blindness of ego. When you think you know everything, You stop paying attention, you miss crucial information, ignore warning signs, and make preventable mistakes. But when you maintain humility about your knowledge, you stay alert, adaptive, and aware. You see what the overconfident miss. Third, this humility makes you anti-fragile in the face of being wrong. When your identity isn't tied to being right, being wrong doesn't threaten you. You can admit mistakes quickly, change course when needed, and update your beliefs when presented with better information. This flexibility is a superpower in a rapidly changing world. Strategic humility also improves your relationships dramatically. People trust those who can admit they don't know everything. They respect those who can say, "I was wrong," or "I don't know," without ego damage. They're drawn to those who are secure enough to be uncertain. Lesson 11. The practice of virtue. The 11th lesson brings us to the core of Stoic philosophy. The practice of virtue. For the Stoics, virtue wasn't an abstract concept, but a daily practice. They identified 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, the ability to make good decisions; justice, treating others fairly; courage, doing what's right despite fear; and temperance, self-control and moderation. Every action, every decision, every response is an opportunity to practice these virtues. What makes virtue so powerful is that it's entirely within your control and can never be taken from you. External goods, wealth, health, reputation can be lost. But your commitment to virtue, your choice to act wisely, justly, courageously, and temperately is always available. This makes virtue the only reliable source of lasting fulfillment and self-respect. Practicing virtue also simplifies decision-making tremendously. Instead of calculating what will make you happiest or most successful, you simply ask, what would a virtuous person do here? What action aligns with wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance? This framework cuts through complexity and provides clear guidance even in difficult situations. The practice of virtue also makes you invaluable to others. In a world of people driven by self-interest, someone committed to virtue stands out dramatically. You become the person others trust with important matters, seek out for advice, and want to associate with. Your reputation for virtue becomes more valuable than any resume or credential. But here's the crucial point. Virtue must be practiced for its own sake, not for the benefits it brings. The moment you're being virtuous to get something, approval, success, rewards, you've stopped being virtuous and started being manipulative. True virtue is its own reward. The Stoics understood that a life lived virtuously is a successful life, regardless of external outcomes. Lesson 12. The ultimate freedom. The 12th and final lesson is about achieving what the Stoics considered the ultimate freedom. Freedom from the tyranny of external validation, freedom from the prison of comparison, freedom from the slavery of uncontrolled emotions, freedom from the fear of death, loss, or failure. This isn't freedom in the political or physical sense, but something much deeper, the freedom of the soul. This ultimate freedom comes from integrating all the previous lessons into a coherent life philosophy. When you've mastered the dichotomy of control, you're free from futile struggle. When you've embraced amor fati, you're free from resistance to reality. When you've internalized memento mori, you're free from the illusion of unlimited time. When you've built your inner citadel, you're free from external dependence. This freedom doesn't mean you don't care about anything or anyone. It means you care about the right things in the right way. You can love deeply without possessiveness. You can strive greatly without desperation. You can commit fully without attachment to outcomes. This is the paradox of Stoic freedom. By accepting constraints on what you can control, you achieve unlimited freedom in how you respond. The ultimate freedom also means you're no longer at war with reality. You're not constantly wishing things were different, people were better, or life was easier. You accept reality as it is while working to influence what you can. This alignment with reality, rather than resistance to it, creates a profound peace that no external circumstance can disturb. This freedom is available to everyone, regardless of circumstances. Epictetus found it as a slave. Marcus Aurelius maintained it as an emperor. Seneca discovered it in exile. Their external situations couldn't have been more different, but their internal freedom was the same. This is the promise of Stoic philosophy, that no matter who you are, where you are, or what you're facing, you can achieve this ultimate freedom. The integration challenge. Now comes the crucial part. Integration. Knowledge without application is merely entertainment. The Stoics were clear that philosophy isn't about what you know, but how you live. These 12 lessons aren't meant to be intellectually understood but practically applied. The question isn't whether you agree with these principles, but whether you'll practice them. Start with one lesson that resonates most strongly with you. Perhaps the dichotomy of control speaks to your anxiety, or memento mori to your procrastination, or voluntary hardship to your comfort dependency. Choose one and practice it daily for a week. Don't try to master all 12 at once. That's a recipe for failure. Build slowly, patiently. Create a morning ritual where you remind yourself of your chosen principle. Throughout the day, look for opportunities to apply it. In the evening, reflect on how well you practiced it and what you learned. This simple structure, reminder, practice, reflection, will embed the principle into your life far more effectively than mere study. As you master one principle, add another. Notice how they interconnect and reinforce each other. The dichotomy of control makes amor fati easier. Memento mori motivates voluntary hardship. The view from above strengthens your inner citadel. These lessons aren't separate techniques, but facets of a single jewel, the Stoic approach to an impenetrable life. The compound effect. What makes these Stoic lessons so powerful is their compound effect. Each day you practice them, you become slightly stronger, slightly wiser, slightly more free. These small improvements might seem insignificant at first, but they compound over time into dramatic transformation. The person who practices these principles for a year becomes unrecognizable to who they were before. This compound effect extends beyond personal transformation. As you become more stoic in your approach to life, you influence those around you. Your calm in chaos calms others. Your courage in difficulty inspires courage in others. Your virtue in a world of vice reminds others of their better nature. You become what Marcus Aurelius called a rock in the sea, unmoved by the waves while providing stability for others. The compound effect also builds resilience reserves. Each challenge you face with Stoic principles strengthens you for the next challenge. Each loss you accept with grace makes future losses less threatening. Each fear you face with courage makes you braver. You're not just handling individual situations better, you're becoming someone who handles all situations better. The modern application. These ancient lessons aren't museum pieces. They're urgently needed modern tools. In an age of social media comparison, the view from above provides perspective. In a culture of comfort addiction, voluntary hardship builds strength. In a world of external validation seeking, the inner citadel provides stability. In times of rapid change, Stoic principles provide unchanging wisdom. Consider how these lessons apply to modern challenges, facing job uncertainty. The dichotomy of control helps you focus on improving your skills rather than worrying about economic conditions. Dealing with social media anxiety. Memento mori reminds you that likes and followers are trivial in the face of mortality. Struggling with consumer culture? The discipline of desire helps you want what you have rather than constantly craving more. These principles also enhance modern opportunities. Building a business? Stoic resilience helps you weather the inevitable setbacks. Pursuing education, strategic humility keeps you learning rather than assuming you know. Creating relationships, The practice of virtue makes you someone worth knowing. The Stoics didn't retreat from the world. They engaged with it fully, and these principles will help you do the same. As we conclude this exploration of 12 Stoic lessons for an impenetrable life, understand that you're standing at a threshold. Behind you is the life you've known. Reactive, vulnerable to external circumstances, dependent on things outside your control for happiness and security. Ahead of you is the possibility of something different, a life of principle, purpose, and unshakable inner strength. This isn't an easy path. It requires daily practice, constant vigilance, and the courage to go against cultural conditioning. You'll fail regularly, forget principles, and fall back into old patterns. The Stoics knew this. They called philosophy a lifelong practice, not a destination. The goal isn't perfection, but progress, not mastery, but improvement. But here's what makes this journey worth taking. It's the only path to genuine freedom and fulfillment. Everything else, wealth, success, pleasure, even relationships, can be taken from you. But the strength you build through these practices, the character you develop, the wisdom you gain, these become part of you in a way that no external force can remove. Your next action, if you've made it this far, you've already demonstrated something important, the patience and focus to engage with deep ideas rather than seeking quick fixes. This quality alone sets you apart, but knowledge without action is sterile. The question now is, what will you do with what you've learned? Here's my challenge to you. Choose one of these 12 lessons and commit to practicing it for the next 7 days. Just one. Write it down somewhere you'll see it every morning. Set a reminder on your phone to check in with yourself about it. Share your commitment with someone who will hold you accountable. Make it real. Make it specific. Make it happen. Document your experience. Notice what changes, what challenges arise, what insights emerge. You're not just learning philosophy, you're conducting an experiment in living. You're testing whether ancient wisdom can transform modern life. You're discovering whether you have what it takes to build an impenetrable life. Subscribe to Stoic Mindset if you haven't already. Not because I need your subscription, but because you need the regular reminder that there's a different way to live. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss the practical applications, deep dives, and real-world examples that will support your practice. Like this video if it's provided value. Your engagement helps others discover these life-changing principles. But more importantly than any of that, share this video with someone who needs it. Maybe it's a friend going through difficulty who needs to hear about amor fati. Maybe it's a family member paralyzed by anxiety who needs to understand the dichotomy of control. Maybe it's a colleague struggling with purpose who needs to discover the practice of virtue. Be the person who introduces others to wisdom that can change their lives. The final wisdom. Remember, the goal isn't to become emotionless or indifferent. The goal is to become fully alive, engaged with life but not enslaved by it, caring deeply but not desperately, striving greatly but not anxiously. The Stoics weren't trying to eliminate human nature, but to perfect it, not to escape life, but to master it. The impenetrable life isn't about building walls that keep everything out. It's about building strength that can handle anything that comes in. It's about becoming someone who doesn't need life to be easy to be happy, who doesn't need circumstances to be perfect to be content, who doesn't need others' approval to know their worth. This is the promise of Stoic philosophy. Not that life will become easy, but that you will become capable. Not that challenges will disappear, but that you will become anti-fragile. Not that you'll never suffer, but that you'll find meaning in suffering. Not that you'll control everything, but that you'll master what matters, yourself. The ancient Stoics lit a torch over 2,000 years ago. Through war and peace, prosperity and poverty, empire and collapse, that flame has been kept alive by those who understood its value. Now it's being passed to you. Will you carry it forward? Will you become someone who doesn't just study Stoicism but lives it? Will you build an impenetrable life, not through external fortifications, but through internal strength? The choice, as always, is yours. And that choice, the power to choose your response, your values, your path, is the foundation of everything we've discussed. No one can make this choice for you. No one can walk this path for you. But if you choose to walk it, you join a tradition of some of history's greatest thinkers, leaders, and human beings. Thank you for joining me on Stoic Mindset for this deep exploration of Stoic wisdom. Remember, you already have everything you need to build an impenetrable life. The question is whether you'll use it. The ancient wisdom is available. The modern application is clear. The only thing missing is your commitment. Will you make it? Will you start today? Will you become living proof that these principles work? The Stoics are watching, history is recording, and your future self is hoping you'll make the choice that transforms everything. Till next time, remember Marcus Aurelius's words. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength is available to you right now, in this moment, regardless of your circumstances. Claim it, develop it, and use it to build a life that no external force can shake. Live well, live wisely, and most importantly, live according to your principles. This is Stoic Mindset, and this is your invitation to an impenetrable life.